Next up is another Fabarm. This is the alloy Elos D2. And it's a super lightweight gun. No question about it. What I like about it is that unlike many alloy receivered over and unders, this thing is just perfectly balanced. Fabarm does that with lighter weight barrels. So people ask all the time, what do you recommend? The steel receiver, like the Elos 2 Elite, which is Fabarm brand, or the Orvis, which is the same gun. Same action, same barrel, same everything, only a different treatment of the receiver. They're both excellent. I've hunted with both. It's the same gun. So you're talking about maybe 6.5 pound gun, and it's soft enough shooting with a steel receiver. You could certainly have a lot of fun on the clays course or shooting skeet, etc., etc. And Trulock has extended chokes. So you've got your choice of 28, 30 inch. If you'd like extended chokes, even though they're not listed on the website, because Trulock's website is at capacity, they have to come up with a massively larger database. They've got them in stock. And those can be hard to find, but they've got all the constrictions. Not hard to find at Trulock. Precision Hunter extended chokes in 20 gauge. And Fabarm does not offer extended chokes. So if that's what you're looking for clays use in particular, or tungsten approved choke tubes, check out Trulock. They can take care of you. So what am I doing here? Well, I want to see how the factory Fabarm chokes perform with the same double A's, 1 ounce, 1165 feet per second at 36 yards. And what I have installed is the 7/10. We'll take a couple shots with the 7/10. And I think I will try the 9/10 as well. Two shots, not three. Tell you what I'm going to do, since a lot of the patterning I've done with autoloaders is doing with 3 shots. I'm going to take one more shot with this Fabarm. Alright, let me go grab the paper. Well, as you can see, as always, excellent barrel regulation. You wouldn't know the pellets came from two different barrels, that's for sure. So the barrel regulation is just a big reason to get a Fabarm. This is not a turkey quality pattern, not super tight. But for this type of range, let's say 30-35 yards on doves, pretty good. And it shoots essentially to point of aim, just like all Fabarm D2s that I've tested, 12 and 20 gauge. Great gun. So, is it worth experimenting with a factory Fabarm 9/10? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Okay, so I have screwed a 9/10 factory flush Fabarm choke into this D2 20 gauge. And So there's a little better point of comparison. I'm going to take 3 shots through that 9/10 choke so we can compare it with the 7/10 and see if there's a noticeable difference. No question in my mind, that's a tighter pattern. The difference is not subtle. There's the Fabarm 7/10. I'll hold them both up. Fabarm 7/10. Fabarm 9/10. That is just a well-saturated target. Both choke tubes shoot to point of aim, no question about that. So it's up to you, depending on what range you think your shots are going to be. I'm guessing doves around here, most of the shots are going to be the 30 to 35 yardish. Won't have to go out much beyond that. So I will probably personally stick with the 7/10 or 7/10 in the bottom, 9/10 in the upper barrel. One of the benefits of an over and under, as long as birds fly correctly, so you never know. So here's what it looks like to me. As far as I'm concerned, this is just my opinion, not the opinion of Fabarm or anybody else. I think to get a good hunting pattern for doves, for pheasants, with a 20 gauge factory Fabarm choke, you want to start out with a 7/10. That's where it begins. And whether you want a 7/10 or a 9/10, that's up to you, and it depends a lot on the shell. With the 12 gauge, it's a different scenario. The 5/10 in Fabarm 12 gauges, that is plenty efficient enough. That's what I've used for the last 9 years in Fabarm 12 gauges. But for the 20 gauge, I think they have different increments of constriction. At least that's the way I measure it. The way the Fabarm works is 1/10 of a millimeter in 12 gauge. So nominally, when you go from number to number, you know, 2/10, 4, 5/10, that is nominally 4/1000ths of an inch. I'm not seeing that with the 20 gauge. It's 3/1000ths. So that 7/10 is going to be roughly a 21/1000ths constriction, which is generally what I've had the best results with, is 20 to 23, 24/1000ths constriction in 20 gauge or in 12 gauge. 20 gauge tends to be a little bit more fussy, but I really like the 7/10 here, and I think that's 21/1000ths. If you want a tighter pattern, certainly the 9/10 gives you a denser pattern, and it doesn't move the pattern. It's not a blown pattern, up, down, left, right. It's right on the money. So that's up to you. And these are with double A's. So if you're using a lighter payload, you may well need to go with a 9/10, or if you're using softer shot, you may well want to go with a 9/10. Depends on the ammo that you're using. So as far as comparisons, I'll just close with this. The Benelli M2, the Browning B80 that I've used quite a bit, both Fabarm 20 gauge over and unders, and there are several other 20 gauges that I enjoy too, particularly an A5 Mag 20. They're all good pheasant guns. They're all good dove guns. If you want a gun that shoots to point of aim, the B80 does it. If you change a bead, the Weatherby 18i does it, and both Fabarms do it. If you want a pattern a little bit on the high side, 60-40, that's about what you get with a Benelli M2. So it's certainly very usable. There's no reason to avoid it if you otherwise like the gun. As far as recoil of the guns I've just mentioned, the softest shooting gun is my old Browning B80, which is gas operated and is 6 1/4 pounds. It doesn't have much of a recoil, just a rubber butt plate. The steel Fabarm over and under is about 6 1/2 pounds, and even factory has got a more generous recoil pad. So as far as soft shooting, that would be number 2. And the alloy Fabarm and the inertia Weatherby, very, very similar, as is the Benelli M2. Now the Benelli M2 Comfort Tech, that's a 6-pound gun, which is the same weight as this alloy Elos. So this is, I mean, you can shoot it one-handed. This is a very, very enjoyable gun to carry, particularly if you're old like me. But this is one sweet gun to go walking around with. Stationary shooting, doves, doesn't really matter the weight of the gun. So I'll be using either the Weatherby or the steel Elos 2 Elite. They're both doing what I want so far. The only other 20 gauge that I am expecting in the near future is be the Weatherby Sorex 20 gauge, which comes only in one barrel length 28-inch. 3 different camo patterns, all Cerakote. I hope that makes it before dove season. If so, I'll come out and pattern it, but it's a 28-inch barrel, and that's all there is for starters. But that has a stepped rib, and I'm anxious to see how that does as well. The Browning A5 that a lot of people have talked about in 20 gauge, last word from Browning, even though they said it was going to be March, end of the year. So it's not going to make dove season for most folks. It's not going to make pheasant season either for most folks. So end of the year, they might as well call it 2025 product, unless something changes. But end of the year-ish. And just the Browning name, I think they'll do well with it if they ever release it. There's also been questions about a more inexpensive gun, the Impala Plus in 20 gauge, a Turkish gun from Istanbul's Sila. Well, that supposedly was ready to go 2 years ago. It was formally announced at the IWA show in Nuremberg earlier this year, but there's no answer. So they've blown it as far as the 2024 hunting season as well. And they haven't released any specs, so I couldn't tell you that if it's a 6-pound 20 gauge or an 8-pound 20 gauge. I have no idea what any dimensions or specs or load cycling capability is. So that's about where we're at. Just one more 20 gauge to look at, as far as I know, for 2024, and that would be the Weatherby Sorex. and the browning whenever it becomes available. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. Nothing that most people will be able to hunt with. So that's it for now. If I have a Sorex, we'll do a review on it as soon as it shows up. Plus 3 days for the little waiting period here in Illinois. So thank you for stopping by. And I don't enjoy shooting at paper, but that's how I learn. And that's the best representation we have of what's going to go on 35, 40, 45 yards downfield. So thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again.